Hello. Can everyone hear me? I'd like to welcome everyone here to our webinar today, here, wherever you are. Most of you working from home, I imagine. So nice to have all of you join us today. And it looks like I've seen a lot of you coming on the chat and letting us know that you're here. So that looks like you know what you're doing with that, and that's great. We do like to have you here with us for this webinar this week, which is making your schools sub-friendly. I like to always say that this is a must participate webinar. That means that what you're doing there on the chat is exactly what we want you to do, is participating in the chat. In case you're not aware of using a chat, or our chat maybe is different than ones you've used before, the chat feature is how you respond when I ask you a question, and I will ask some questions throughout. I am being told to hit the present button. You'll be able to see things bigger, but then I can't see your chats. So hopefully my panelists who are with me will help with that. But I want to make sure that you know when you're replying in the chat, make sure you're replying to all panelists and attendees. That way everyone that's in the chat can see what you're saying, not just the panelists, or it might say everyone in your chat function, but you want to reply to all panelists and attendees, or everyone. So once everyone has answered, we'll be able to have all of the chat, available. You can copy it to your own computer, or we will make that available as part of the part of what's available on our webinars. We always post our webinars to our webinars page at steady.org/webinars. And we'd love to have you, revisit the webinar there, go back there to get the chat notes, or to maybe share the webinar with somebody else that wasn't able to participate today. I know we have a lot of people that from a couple of different districts that are serving in, specific roles that work specifically with maybe the substitute teachers or secretaries. I know one district was having all their secretaries. What is your role in your district? I'm not going to be able to see these coming through because, like I said, I can't see the chat now. But hopefully we're getting some interesting ideas. I imagine a lot of you are working in relation to substitute teachers, and that's why you would have received the notification about our webinar today. But maybe, perhaps you are working just as, maybe, I shouldn't say just as, but as a secretary. So you're one of the people that might welcome the substitutes into your district as they come in. If there's any feedback you'll want to let me know on my panelists.
Yeah, we've got a lot of chats coming in. We have a lot of admin, secretaries, sub-coordinators, so a good variety.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you, Jessica. So speaking of, let me introduce you to who's on the panel today with me. It's really just me presenting today. I will have a cameo by Jessica, and you might remember her if you were at participating in our webinar last week. Jessica was the one who presented that. So there's me there at the beginning. I'm the VP of Client Success, and that means that I want to make sure everybody is successful as clients, or so hopefully going to be clients. and I have worked with a lot of you for a while. I've been with Steady for over 6 years now. Jessica is our Chief Education Officer. I know she introduced herself as our trainer last week because that's what she's done for us for so long. She really has been in charge of all of our training and does a great job with that. Sam Brand is our VP of Sales and Marketing, and he just has been a big help to us in getting all of our sales and marketing in line. And then of course there's Jeff Smith, who is our President and Chief Executive Officer. And I think everybody is helping participate in the panel today, but if Jeff has stepped away, that was understandable. He's kind of making sure that all the work that's going on in the building is getting taken care of. So sometimes he gets called away. So I have another question for you. What is your fill rate? Some of you may or may not know that. If you're in the HR department, you're more likely to know the answer to that question. And maybe Jessica can throw out there some of those numbers that are coming out.
Kelly, if you want to not do full screen so you can see the chat, that's fine.
Okay.
We're looking at the 80 to 90% is most 85 to 90%
Oh, I see
usually.
somebody with 95%. That's
Yeah.
pretty good. That's good if you can keep your fill rate up to that high, but still means you can go higher. I asked that question, it's an important question, because you want your fill rate to be as high as it can be. And one of the things that we found that really, helps to improve your fill rate is for you to be, for you to be steady ready. That's going to improve your fill rate. And that's what we consider, having your campuses ready to receive the substitutes, and having your schools, being friendly to your substitutes. So that's why we talked about making your school sub-friendly. We wanted you to come here so we could give ideas about that and share ideas. So, I see someone that says it's very low this year. So we definitely want to help with that. We want to help get the fill rates higher. So I was going to call this Steady Ready, and I was kind of advised by Sam that might be confusing. You might not know what Steady Ready means. Those of you who have been working with Steady may be familiar with that term, because we like to use it. I mean, it's kind of catchy, right? But we do like the idea of being steady ready. So what is steady ready? Steady ready means that your substitutes are ready, and of course that's what we have done for years now, is help get your subs ready through the training that we provide. But on the flip side of that, or on the other side of that, you need to have your schools ready to receive the substitutes. You want your classrooms to be ready to receive those substitutes, and you want the students to be ready to have those substitutes come into their classrooms and teach them. So that's what we're talking about, being steady ready, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is what we can do to help the schools and the classrooms and the students. One thing that's interesting, and I'd like to point out, is that we've done surveys. We're kind of known for all the research that we've done. As a matter of fact, that's kind of what Steady started from, is way back, over 25 years ago. It was just at Utah State University doing research about substitute teachers, and we've done a lot of surveys and research since then, kept everything up to date. And our surveys always show that there's the top two reasons that people substitute teach are that they like working with students. And of course that makes sense, that that's the number one reason. But two, they like working with other professionals. And so that means, that they want to go into a school and work with the other professionals that are there, the other teachers, the other employees at the district. So we want to make sure that they feel comfortable doing that. So that's kind of up to you to make sure that the substitutes are being well received. So who greets the substitute teachers when they arrive at one of your schools? There's probably kind of a process that you give them where to go. The building secretary, me, a lot of the secretaries, yes, the front desk, office managers, okay. See a lot of building secretaries and front desk. The sub coordinator, that's the person who called the sub and said, can you come be here? That's good. I see school clerks, on-site administrator. So the principal's secretary, that's good. So we see a lot of similar, mostly secretaries, and that makes sense because the substitute's going to arrive, go to the office, and the secretary is the one that's going to greet them there. So that makes sense. But it is kind of nice if there's somebody that, like I said, if the sub coordinator is the one that called them, that they're there to make sure that they're welcomed. Of course, we got to keep in mind that different size districts will have different, policies, different opportunities, depending on the size of your staff. But we're going to talk today about who makes a difference. It's not just that secretary that's greeting them. That is important. That's the first impression a substitute has when they arrive at the front office, is how they're greeted, and the information that they're given, and how helpful everybody is in getting them there. So I wanted to start off talking about the principal. So there's just a little thing I'd like to share with you here. This is from our SubSkills Alumni Group Facebook page. And one of the folks that is a member there on that page posted, "The moment the principal walks in and wants to know how your day is going." So apparently that made a really good impression upon her, that she mentioned that. And the comments came back, that's when you're at a good school that cares about their subs. And then the original poster, agreed. She said, "I had the assistant principal come in to check on how things were going. I'm in a resource class for 9th grade algebra 1. So it's a block class for 2 hours. Well, that's got to be a little bit overwhelming to be, in a 2-hour math class, algebra. And so that really meant a lot to her, that the, assistant principal checked in on her, made sure everything was okay. And then of course, Jennifer commented that she used to, sub at schools where that happened, and she felt so appreciated by them. So let's keep that in mind. That's something definitely you want to pass along to your principals. I'm not sure that we have any principals on here. We might, and if we do, that's great. But if they're not here, then you might want to pass that on to them, how important what they're doing is. And so let's talk about that. They're the ones that are going to determine the policy. Now, granted, there's probably district policy, but when it's their school, it's like they're the king or the mayor or the governor of that, whole, facility. So they're the ones in charge, and they're going to determine what policy is. They're the ones that are going to evaluate what substitutes are doing. And I know in many school districts, the principals are the ones that determine whether a sub will continue working at a certain, campus or not, or whether they want them there. If there's a complaint, it goes through the principal typically. So it's very important that there's a good relationship there between the principal and the substitutes that are working there. He should know who those substitutes are and what they're doing. And it's awesome if they can go in and actually check in on them. I think that the principal sets the example for the rest of the staff. If you have, a principal that is looking down on the subs or ignoring the subs, if those substitute teachers are feeling like they're not important to that principal, then that's not very good. And that's probably the same kind of feeling that the other staff is going to give them. If the other, teachers or, just anybody on the staff sees the principal respecting the substitute teachers, then I believe that they will follow suit and will do the same. Let's talk about that staff. I like to think of the staff as being the neighbors, the coworkers, the friends, the resources. And I'll explain that. What I mean is that when a teacher goes into a substitute teacher goes into a classroom, those classrooms on either side of them, maybe across the hall from them, those are their neighbors, just like, if you were at home, who your neighbors are. But are those teachers going to be the kind of neighbors that are peeking through the bushes, looking for everything wrong that the substitute teacher might do, something that goes against what they think is cool, or maybe they need to know that, something should be done differently. Well, that's the kind of neighbors that we want somebody to be, is the kind that are going to help them and say, hey, maybe you don't know this, or how, this is what we do here. And this is, and answers questions, and makes that person feel like they belong there in that neighborhood, and are welcoming to them that way. And when I say that a staff is like coworkers, I'm thinking more along the line of, when you go to a normal job that you work at every day, who your coworkers are, and you feel like you can rely on them to help you with whatever you need. If maybe you need somebody to watch the class for you while you step out to the bathroom, a coworker is, the kind of person you can count on to help you when you need some help, at your job. And so that's what you want. You want good neighbors, good coworkers, and it's great if they can even be friends. That's the kind of staff that you want to have, that's welcoming and friendly. That's the whole idea of being sub-friendly. And I mentioned resources because those people that are working around the staff are great resources. If perchance the substitute shows up and there is no lesson plan, or it's a very vague lesson plan, those other teachers can be a great resource about, what should I do? How, what are we covering today? If there's, something missing, if there's going to be an assembly that day, or a field trip, or, something a little out of the ordinary, those teachers can be a definite resource on, things like that, what to do in certain situations. So that's what we want. We want the staff to be a great resource for people. Now, the permanent teacher is really important, and you might think, well, the permanent teacher's not even there. And that's true, but it's what the permanent teacher has done in preparation that's very important to making things sub-friendly. Really important that the permanent teacher leaves important information for the substitute teachers. They need to have a class list. Maybe a seating chart would be really important for them. I think that would be really helpful. Maybe a lesson, maybe a list of some helpful students that the substitute teacher might be able to, count on in case they have questions. So those are just really important things that a substitute teacher is going to need that a permanent teacher can leave behind. And, sometimes a permanent teacher is not planning on an absence. If they've planned, then some of these things definitely would be in place. If somebody might, get sick overnight, not wake up in the morning and not be able to come into work, last minute type of thing, then it's even more important that they have certain information set up and available for that substitute teacher when they get there. Of course, a lesson plan is very important, and that's something that should be prepared ahead of time and left for them. But if it's really vague, that's not good. We absolutely do teach our substitute teachers in our training how to prepare for these kind of things, and to go into a classroom where there may be no lesson plan or may not be set up with a good set plan. That's something that, again, that's vague and with not a lot of detail. We've got a lot of activities they can use to present a lesson plan, but it's best if the permanent teacher has left a lesson plan for them with the instructions that can help them work through it for the class. And of course, the permanent teacher is the one that's going to prepare the class for the absences, whether they know that there's one coming up because of professional development or a planned vacation or something, or if it happens to be a last minute type of thing. So we certainly want to make sure that the permanent teacher is preparing the class for those absences. So we'll talk about the students, because they're the class we're talking about. The students are going to live up to the expectations that the permanent teachers set for them. I like this. This comes out of our Steady Ready materials. It says, you have control of your students even when you aren't in the classroom. And if they know your expectations, you'll set them and the sub you'll set up them and the sub for success. So it's all about expectations. Now I'm going to turn the time over here to Jessica now. She is the one that did our she's our trainer. She did our webinar last week about our interactions, with people, personal interactions. And I think that this story that she has is great. I asked her if she would share this story today. So
No, thanks, Kelly.
let me turn that over to you.
When I was teaching, I had set up a system where I would hand out tickets during the day. And if they needed to use the restroom, go get a drink, or any behavior infractions, they would have to pay me in tickets. And I had kind of forgotten that I had set this up, because soon after, a vice principal came in to observe me, and it kind of threw off my, just groove a little bit. So we'd started the lesson, and a student had just shouted out some obscene thing. I mean, it was so out of character for him. It was really bizarre. And I didn't know how to respond. I just looked at him, luckily for a second too long, because another student turned to him and was like, dude, you know what happens when you do that kind of stuff. Give her all your tickets. We don't handle that kind of stuff here. Just give her all your tickets. And I was like, yeah, give me all your tickets. And I walked over, held out my hand. And afterwards, then we kind of moved on with the class. And afterwards, the vice principal was just so surprised that I could set up a system in a classroom where students were managing themselves. And luckily for that other student, I think he could read that I didn't know what to do. He helped me out. But it really is, when you have strong classroom management skills and can set up systems where appropriate behavior is recognized, then students will absolutely live up to your expectations.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. I love that story, because it really, it just shows how those students knew what was expected of them. And I know that there's always going to be the students that see the substitute there and immediately think about, well, how can I push that sub's buttons or push the boundaries, whatever the case may be. But I think that there's also the ones that are going to be good and follow what the teacher has taught them to do and live up to those expectations. And so when I say that students can be helpful resources, it's because those that know what's going on and how it's supposed to go, they really are going to be helpful. So maybe you don't need to go next door to the teacher next door, across the hallway to the teacher there to find out how to take care of, a certain situation or what goes next, because you've got some students that are in the classroom that are going to be helpful resources to you as well. The students really want to learn. I think that we know that overall students do want to learn. That's what they're there for. And, there are ages and, that they're going to be more likely to be that way than, others. And it may just vary. Some kids just have a bad day that they don't want to learn at all. But I think overall students want to learn. And so that's why the substitute teacher is there, to make sure that that learning is continuing. And we want to make sure that they feel welcome there so that they can help that learning move along. I have another question for you. What do you do to make the substitute teachers in your district or at your schools feel appreciated? Back to the chat. You can answer me in the chat, please, to answer that question. The Sub Appreciation Week, yes, and that's coming up. Sub Appreciation in Service. Oh, I like that. Tries to say that, glad you're here. Weekly treats. I like that one too. Yes, greeting them in the morning is very important. All through the day, checking with them. Verbal gratitude. Chocolate, absolutely. Treats. I love any kind of treats. A lunch celebration. Announcing them over the PA system. That's really nice. Personalized badges. That's good. That makes them feel part of the team as they show up. They've got a badge just like the teachers do. Being prepared for when they arrive. Yes. If you're prepared, that's great. Positive feedback coming from the teachers. That's good. Breakfasts. Candy dish. You can tell I like anything that involves candy or food. I just noticed that somebody said every school does something different, and that's true. So that's a person on the district level saying that each school does something different. And that's why, I kind of talked about, the principal sets the policy sometimes at different schools. But free school lunch on Fridays, that's awesome. Greeting them warmly, walking them to the classroom. I heard that once about a district where there was a team of students that welcomed the substitute teachers each day and made sure they knew where their classroom was, walked them there, answered questions for them. So, it's kind of like maybe a student council function or something. There was an actual committee there at each school that helped take care of them. Letters. So lots of good subs, notes and treats and baskets, of good stuff. In the lounge. So this is wonderful. We're seeing a lot of really good ideas, but I'm going to move along to the list that I have. So ways to be sub-friendly, rewards, free lunch. Somebody said they have a luncheon each year, and this is we're getting into that, about the time of year where those kind of things might take place, having a luncheon, and I'm not sure that everybody will be able to do that, as many of the schools have closed down for the year, or maybe not able to gather people together for something like that. But, free lunch, you could also perhaps, get vouchers from local restaurants to, give to the substitute teachers for, them to go get a lunch on their own. Maybe free lunch at the cafeteria, give them an opportunity. Somebody had said they do that, like every Friday they have that. And that's a good way to get people to work on Fridays for you, right? If they get free lunch that day. I know Fridays are hard days to fill with your substitutes sometimes. Tickets to the events that are happening. If there's football games, basketball games, maybe a play that's going on at the school, or the performance from an orchestra or choir or something. The substitute teachers would love to have tickets to those kind of things, typically, because they're working with those students that are participating in those events or performing or playing in the games. So they would love to see the students that they have been teaching throughout the week on a substitute basis. They would love to see them in event. So they'd love to get tickets to that. And swag, again, that's something that you could go through your community and work with different stores if there's something that they have to give away, maybe gift cards, things like that. Or perhaps you've got things in your school district that are specific to your schools that you can give away, t-shirts, for the high school or middle school. Maybe the band has ordered, some extra shirts. And so that, somebody might appreciate, getting a t-shirt that says, Smith High School Band. But whatever the case is, there's a lot of ways you can get things like that. And everybody loves to get free stuff. So, and like I said, food too. Anything, treats and food. I love that when I saw those ideas. They sound great. I don't know if any of you are looking at this picture and wondering what it said. I actually turned it. I think when I first saw it, it was going the other way and it made it a little bit hard, but you'll notice it says substitute. That's a parking spot for substitutes. And I think that's a great way to motivate your substitutes. Now you might have parking available for them. If you've got a big enough parking lot that you could actually designate a certain number of spaces like that for the substitute teachers, that would be awesome. They would know that's where they park. Great, great place for them to go to. But, also maybe you don't have enough spaces for everybody, to designate, so many for them. But you might, if you're going to be, choosing a sub of the day, week, or month, that might be something that they get as a parking spot. But you can certainly acknowledge subs that way and motivate them to do a great job and to be there and want to work, because they might end up being the sub of the week. What a great honor, that could be on their badge. Maybe they get acknowledgement in the weekly or monthly newsletter that goes out. Maybe put it on the door that they're of the classroom they're in for that day or week. So I'm seeing that somebody had backpacks printed saying, "I'm a substitute teacher. What's your superpower?" I love it. I love it. So let's see. And then bonuses are a really good motivator. I'm thinking along the lines of, if a substitute teacher works a certain number of days, they would receive a bonus. Now, I know that a lot of times somebody works a long-term assignment, which makes better money, a long-term assignment, where they're working maybe, during the 6 or 8 weeks or whatever, that somebody's off on a pregnancy leave or some other kind of leave. If somebody's working that long, they're going to make better money anyways. But I'm thinking in terms of somebody who's working, just a really reliable sub, somebody who you can call on and who has worked, 20 times or 30 times or whatever level you want to make it, that they might earn a bonus for that. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, back to the acknowledgement, how about little things that aren't really that little? Everybody loves to be thanked for what they're doing. So send thank you notes to them to thank them for a job well done. And those thank you notes, if they come from the teacher whose classroom that they were working in, that would be awesome. Or the principal who came in and noticed what a good job that they were doing. That kind of thank you note is even more important than one that comes just from the district, from the HR office. But, if the sub coordinator was trying to fill a job and it was really hard to find someone last minute and somebody stepped in and filled that job, a thank you note would be really appropriate then too. Birthday cards or emails. Oh, so
jump
go
in
ahead.
really quick.
Yeah.
When I was substitute teaching, I had a long-term assignment in a fourth grade class. And a few weeks later, the teacher had sent me, every student had written me a thank you note. So I got a packet of thank you notes from the students for subbing in that class. And that just was so above and beyond and just made me feel like $1 million.
See, that's cool. So a lot of times it's where that thank you note comes from, that it makes even more of an impact on the substitute teacher, makes them feel that much better. But again, there's other things you can do, birthday cards or emails, acknowledging. Not everybody wants their birthday acknowledged. The older I get, but typically I think people like that. And service anniversaries, if somebody's been working for a sub for you for, 2 years or 5 years or, however long you want to let it go. But again, that acknowledgement is going to make them feel so good about it. And so that's the kind of thing we're encouraging you to do, is acknowledging things. We acknowledge substitutes. We've got our spring giveaway going on right now, happening right now. We do it twice a year, in the fall and in the spring. And right now, if you send your substitutes to steady.org/giveaway, they can register to win some really great prizes. Yes. all the things you see here, Apple Watch, Amazon gift cards, Kindle Fire tablets, and also Olive Garden gift cards. I know that we give away some things just like downloads and activity books and some things that, that they can use with the substitute teachers. So all in all, I think we're giving away 200 or 300 prizes, maybe more. Jessica could probably speak better than that because
Yeah,
she
about
puts that
that.
together.
Yep.
Okay. And one thing we're doing now, because we know it's not easy all the time to appreciate your substitute teachers long term, or far away is what I'm trying to say, get at, because, we're all not together now. Most everybody's working from home. And some of them, even though they're not working right now because you may not have the need for them right now. I know some subs are working, but not nearly as many as you might normally be using. And there's a lot of people in your sub pool that are not being used right now, but were really good subs while you needed them. So hopefully you could take advantage of this certificate that we have available. This is what it looks like, and the link there below will bring you, to our website where you can get that. Oh, I'm seeing that study.org/giveaways is not found. Is that, Jessica, can you speak to that? We'll check into that.
Yes, so it's giveaway, not plural. So I just included the link. Thanks for bringing that up, Dolores.
So that's in the chat now, that link. Okay, thank you. So the certificate of appreciation is there at the link that's right there beneath it. So we hope you'll take advantage of that. And that's something that you could just email out to your substitute, since you can't really, get to them. Or if you want to get really fancy, you could print it out, put it in a nice certificate holder and send it out to them. If, that would be even more impressive. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about some resources that Steady has when it comes to being sub-friendly. We have our fill rate course, which is designed for sub-managers. So we don't just train substitutes. We actually train sub-managers. And so we have the fill rate course. It's a 2 to 3 hour course. It covers everything from recruiting to training to creating a sub-task force to just all the important things. And in that, we have more information about being Steady ready. There's things like principal guide forms, sub-templates. There's even a letter that Jessica put together on recommendations, how to prepare your students in classrooms for a substitute. So that's something you could provide to your teachers. This is all things that are in the fill rate course. We also have our Fill Rate Academy, and the Fill Rate Academy is a step above, of course, because that's something that we did over the course of the year. Of an entire year, we put together a webinar for each month that we were doing it. So I believe there's 10 webinars altogether, and then some additional information, because as part of the Academy, we also provide you with one-on-one type of mentoring, and we can provide surveys to your district. So there's a lot more that goes into that. Now, these things are now available as part of our packages too. So if you've been looking into the information we've rolled out recently about the Steady Skills Suite, that involves either the Pro Skills package, which has the Fill Rate course, or the Admin Skills, which has both the Fill Rate course and Fill Rate Academy. And that includes the mentoring and surveys and things. So those are things that either myself or Sam can give you more information about. So if you're interested in those things, please let us know, and we will be happy to give you more information about that. Here's the contact information for me and for Sam and for Jessica, if you'd like to reach out to her. We have, we're just really happy to answer any questions that you might have. I know a lot of times we try to cover everything we can in a webinar, but sometimes the information we give just raises more questions. But please do reach out to us. Speaking of questions, what's next week's topic? If you've got any good ideas, I think we kind of have in mind something that we wanted to do. I think Sam's going to do a webinar about our Fill Rate course and Academy next week. So you might be interested in that information. But if you've got some good ideas about other things we could cover, please let us know. You can put it in the chat. You can also email us. Let us know if you've got some ideas. Anyone? Bueller? Got to be pretty old for that. Sorry. that might go over some folks' heads. But thank you so much for being here today and for joining us. if there's any other questions you have, please let me know, or please reach out to me or to Sam or to Jessica. Let us know, and we'd be happy, to answer any questions that you have and provide you with any other information that we can. We just really want you all to be successful. We want your substitutes to work more for you. That way your fill rate will be higher. And the best way to do that is just to make them feel at home. Thank you, everyone. Join us again next week.